Okay.
This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net, and we have another entertainment interview for you here today. And I'm especially excited to have Michael Veitch with me today, and hopefully I still said it correctly, because
Yes.
Michael is going to be performing at one of my favorite places in the whole world, Cafe Lena, like the oldest coffee house, still up and running and being very innovative. So, Michael, tell us a little bit about yourself and like how did you even get into music? Because I always wanted to be in music, but I don't have the talent for it.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I really appreciate this. And uh, I'm sorry you won't be at Cafe Lena, but I understand your brother will be. So this is
Yes.
wonderful. You'll get a firsthand report. I'm performing with a group called the We Remembers, and this is myself and three other songwriters who participated in a songwriting project working with Holocaust survivors. And this was a project that was started quite a few years ago to focus on writing songs with elders, and it's based on a like a national model. Okay, they do this in other parts of the country, and a local nonprofit called Sage Arts got formed and started, uh, rounding up songwriters. And they were going for a few years, and then one of the songwriters had to bow out, and so they contacted me and said, "Would you like to work with Holocaust survivors?" And of course, I had just finished living 2 years in Munich, Germany,
Wow.
and I had studied the Holocaust while I was living there because it's everywhere. You get on the train and half an hour later you're at Dachau. I mean, it was like I spent 2 years just immersed in the whole history, tracking down, satellite work camps, and I mean, I got into this thing big time, and primarily because there was a whole story in Europe that we never really got taught here. They didn't tell us everything that went on over there. You have to really kind of go and see it for yourself. So anyway, the PBS picked up the project. We had been filmed by a lovely filmmaker and his partner, Tim Miller and Eileen Cutler. And they had followed us around, gratis, I mean, for free, and filmed us. And then they put together this thing and sold it to PBS. And it ran last April all over the country, 440 stations. So I thought to myself, the songs were great, the performers are great, the message is great. The purpose of the whole project was to we remember to keep the memory alive.
Right.
So, I suggested let's the four of us get together and see if we can't put an act out there. And so that's where we are. And Cafe Lena, to their total credit, were the first ones to pick us up and just said yes, bang, and that was it. And um, so we're going. We'll be there September 22nd, and I understand that the whole week in Saratoga is kind of like a big deal. It's called Peace Week.
Hmm.
So Cafe Lena will be presenting us right in the middle of Peace Week, which I
I
think
love
is
it.
perfect. Perfect.
Now,
So
have you ever been up there?
I've been to Saratoga many times, but I must say, I have been many years trying to get into Cafe Lena to perform. And I've been doing this solo acoustic performance probably 30 years now. And you asked how I became a musician. Well, I was singing in my crib before I could speak.
I love
Okay,
that.
this is what they told me. And I, you know, I'm very interested in politics, and I got very, I'm from Vermont, and I got very involved in politics in Vermont. And, I got to the point where I actually ran for state office, state senate from my county. And Sean Colvin, who was a friend, came and did a fundraiser for me. And we raised like $10,000, one concert for my campaign. And I saw the power of music, and I knew that I had this election coming up, and I made a decision because she said, she basically told me, I played my stuff for her, and she told me, she said, you gotta keep writing songs because you're really good. And you gotta go visit my friend Jack Hardy down in Greenwich Village when you really get serious. Um, Fast folk and all of that. And so I made a decision. If I win the election, I'm gonna go politics. If I lose the election, I'm gonna go music. So here I am doing music, lost the election, and went and spent 4.5 years with Jack Hardy every Monday night, and really honed my craft of songwriting. And I thank Sean for that. Suzanne Vega, she was part of that project. She would show up. She was still showing up Monday nights. So it was great to hang out with her. And it just it's what I needed, to take me to the level I wanted to be at with my songwriting. And so here I
Well,
am.
and I oftentimes think that artists like yourself um, provide us with our own voices. Thoughts are going through our head that you're putting together on paper and performing. And I'm in awe so many times when I'm listening to something and it's like, oh wow, that's what I've been feeling. I just couldn't get those words out.
Mhm.
So I think sometimes you can play even a bigger role as a performer than as you can as an elected official.
Well, I subscribe to the Neil Young uh, philosophy, which is that, and this is why you're having those feelings. And I'm going to explain this to you.
Okay.
You're feeling the same thing that I'm singing about because it's all out there. And it just happens that people like me and Neil Young and other songwriters, we just happen to have the ability to pick it up and convert it into a song. It's out there. And you're picking it up. You're not there yet to where you can like translate it, and what all we're doing as songwriters is just telling a story.
Right.
We're feeding it back to you, and so it's creating the circle, and that's life.
Absolutely. So let's go back to this program that you're putting together, that you put together.
Yeah.
Um, there once was a time that I never would have thought that talking about the Holocaust should be in song. Okay. Um, I don't have any direct relatives that were part of the Holocaust. Most of my uh, family came from Russia. Um, in fact, didn't even realize that my mother's parents, lived um, basically in Ukraine when it was Russia. And so, as I'm watching what's going on politically
Well, and
now, it's like,
sure.
you know, that's where
Yeah.
my family was from. But speaking of the Holocaust, um, growing up, of course, I read Diary of Anne Frank, and I learned
Yeah.
about it in Sunday school and Hebrew school. But really, it hasn't been until recently when survivors have actually, and there's not that many left anymore, but the survivors have come forward and have told us their stories.
Right.
And um, it's heart wrenching what the survivors
Yes.
have gone through.
Yes.
So when you were there, what was your sense of, um, is there almost like an apology the from Germany that this actually happened in their country?
There is an overwhelming guilt. And I was hanging out when I got to Munich. I went looking for the songwriters, and I found them, and they were all hanging out at this one cafe, and and they were all buddies, and I got in with the group and everything. They were like the grandkids, okay, of their grandparents were alive during the
Right.
war. They have the guilt, and they're the grandkids, okay? Their parents had the guilt. The grandparents, I don't know, they're not here, but the bottom line is that uh, there's an overwhelming sense of guilt, and they um, you don't know this until you actually go there, and then you start hanging out with them, and then they open up after a while, and then they love America, they love the Western music, they love the Western culture. You get to know them, and then they start to open up a little bit, and then you start to learn some of the you know some of their feelings, and it's and on TV, I mean, you turn on German TV, I swear to God, every night there's something about World War II
Wow.
and the Germans losing, and it's done in a way to just I mean, they're not upset about this. They're feeling bad about it. They're feeling bad that they let Hitler rise to power, and that's what's driving the Holocaust survivors now. And that's what I picked up. I think that's what others in the group picked up, which is that they see very strong similarities to what's going on in the US as to what went on in Germany before the rise of Hitler. And they want to send us a warning, and they want us to listen and to hear their stories because they're all getting triggered by the news, and it's bringing back all these horrible memories for them. And so that's the connection, and that was my interest because you can write a song about somebody's horrible life and okay, blah blah blah, but I'm more interested in telling their story to audiences in a way that the audience can identify with it and reflect on it and sort of see, you know, maybe see how these survivors dealt with it, how they dealt with the experiences that they went through. And I was very fortunate to work with Rita Schwartz, who, even the end of her life, very optimistic. She's very upset with Donald Trump, but very optimistic in many ways too. So that's all in there.
You know,
I don't want to
and
talk
and
forever, but
it's interesting when you talk about um, the grandchildren and the children feeling guilty for what their parents and grandparents had done previously. Um, just 6 years ago, my mother had a stroke, and she didn't know she was dying, and she still was quite verbal for a while. And for the first, oh, maybe 4 weeks, she was aware that an election was coming up. And
mhm,
she kept reminding me that she didn't want our country to become like Germany. And my mother had not talked about this prior to her stroke, but there
right,
was something about she obviously had a sense of what was going on. And she kept asking my brother and I to promise that we wouldn't forget our ancestors. And I thought it was quite remarkable because she went through this for about 4 weeks and then she
yeah,
slowly basically stopped talking. And I know that the day that she died, I looked at her and I said, I'm not forgetting. And
mhm,
those next 4 years were difficult because I felt like I had failed
mhm,
her. So I can almost understand what
yeah,
today's German population is going through.
yeah,
But there you were in Germany for 2 years, um,
right.
and writing songs. Were some
Lots
of
of
the
them.
uh, were some of those songs? Did you feel it even when people weren't around? Could you feel it from everything else around you, because that's where it all
Yeah,
had
yeah,
happened.
yeah. Well, absolutely. There one song in particular I wanted to talk about, which is called White Rose, and which I wrote in Munich. And right down the street from where I was staying um, was the university, and it's where the White Rose, a group of kids, college kids during the war, exposed the whole death camp story. I mean, this wasn't news. I mean, the death camps were kept a secret by the military and by Hitler. And these college students, some of them had gone to battle. They'd been enlisted and gone to the Eastern Front and come back with the stories, and they had seen Auschwitz, and they had seen these camps. And so the White Rose group of students, they started a leaflet campaign, and it was very, very clever. They printed the leaflets at the college on the college printing department, and then they would bundle them up and they would take them to another city, and then from the other city they would mail them back so that
Interesting.
they couldn't be traced. And they were found out, they were caught, and they were put on trial. And the judge in Munich, and the judge just was he was a Nazi all the way. And they were taken out after the trial and executed, just like that. And the judge wanted them executed on the lawn of the university
Mm.
with guillotines, and instead they took them to the prison and killed them with guillotines. I mean, think about this. These are like 19, 20-year-old kids. So I wrote a song about the White Rose, and primarily for me, it was uh, I was upset that I studied history in high school. I studied it in college. No one ever told me the story of White Rose.
No.
I never heard that story, and and they are uh, considered basically saints in Munich. They have streets named after them. They are honored every year with a memorial event. They've got plaques all over the college. I mean, they are revered, and we haven't even heard a peep about them over here. So, you know, I mean, and there are some other songs that I wrote to try to capture that feel. And you can't escape it. I mean, or I couldn't anyway. I go in with my antenna up and I'm looking for stuff unconsciously, consciously, and so you know, it just kind of hits you. And then, so
Well, and I
that's
have
the,
learned recently how much we didn't know here in the United States, and how much we don't teach in the classroom. Um, it's interesting. My youngest son is a history buff, um, and he doesn't just take for granted what his teachers have taught him or what was in the textbooks. And he used to challenge them on all fronts of history with information. And his teachers would say, well, we don't have enough time to get into that. And he'd go, but this is important. He'd find something that
Mhm.
really could change how we think about things. And
Yeah.
so I'm amazed, or I should say, I'm not amazed that the White Rose was something that just didn't get public. And hopefully we can learn more about them.
Go on Wikipedia. There was a movie made, which, I never saw. But go on Wikipedia, and Sophie Scholl is the leader, and her brother. And it's an amazing story, and it's really relevant today. I mean, that's the thing,
Right.
is that you know the battle of good and evil continues, and
Right.
and here we are, Hopefully we're on the good side. I think I am. And, we're pushing back against the darkness,
Yep.
and people like White Rose and Sophie Scholl and who came before us. And then here's the other thing that this is what for me is sort of like the gift, and that is that when it came time, I recorded the song. I was putting it on a record that was just going to be a digital release, and I had been uh, in Munich one night. I was performing, and at the end of my performance, a guy came up to me and handed me a painting that he had done, and he had been showing in the gallery where I was performing, and he took his painting off the wall and handed it to me and said, "You need this." And I said, "Okay, I'll take it." And, "You sure?" And he said, "Yeah." So when it came time to put out the song, I wanted to use that image. And I contacted him and I said, "Can I use the image? And here's the song. Here's the song. Here's one of the songs that's going to be on the record, just so you get an idea." And I sent him White Rose. Well, it turns out this is what makes me cry. It turns out that his mother, who we played the song for, was a member of White Rose who survived. And no, I'm sorry, her father was a member of White
Okay.
Rose. Her father was a member of White Rose, and he survived. And he had been one of these guys in the other cities that would mail the
Got
pamphlets
it.
back. And she heard the song and burst out into tears. And so I took that as a yes. And so for me, it's things like that that just you know really make it worth the effort. To get
I,
something like that back is just blows my mind.
well, I just can't imagine um, the concert at Cafe Lena. And the best thing I can say is that they are live streamed. So I'm going to make sure I'm tuned in that night because I just have this feeling that the music is going to not necessarily soothe us, but it's going to give us some more information and reconnect us. And
There
that
are
is
two
so important.
there are two shows. The first set we're doing is there are four songwriters: Elizabeth
Okay.
Clark, Kelly McKenzie, Jude Roberts, and myself. We're all accomplished and have vast repertoire. Okay, so the first set we're going to do is a kind of a songwriter in the round, and we're each going to do a couple of our songs. Um, I'll probably do my big number, Veterans Day, which was covered by Judy Collins, and something else. I'm not sure what. And Kelly, I'm trying to talk her into doing the song that won the mountain stage contest, and I mean we're all good, if I don't say so myself.
Well, you
But
should.
then, but then the second half of the program will be focused on the material that we did for the PBS special and wrote with the Holocaust survivors. And there will be some, you know, we'll tell the stories. We each have a story to tell, which is very interesting. We'll perform the songs. We're not performing them individually. The In the second half, we're all we're like the Beatles. We're like a band doing "Let It Be," and I'm playing bass on one of the cuts, and we're all singing harmony, and Kelly's playing banjo on everybody's song. So it's uh, it, it's a whole different thing, and it'll be. Um, I think it's going to be something that folk clubs have never seen before. I mean, that's my prediction.
Well,
Um,
I'm very proud of Cafe Lena to be opening their doors to something like this. It's going to be remarkable. And this is probably another segue that you can come back to Cafe Lena, maybe as a solo artist. You never know.
Well, you know, it is my career, and I am pursuing it. So yeah, and I live in Woodstock. I'm right down the road. So yeah, so hopefully we'll hit it out of the park, and then they'll invite us back. You know, maybe two of us at a time or something.
Absolutely.
I don't know, but we're looking forward to uh, next year to hopefully you know, line up someone who could be more aggressive with booking and who has the contacts and so forth to book us. And I think this would be an excellent, you know, just the four of us doing our We Remembers Holocaust program, which is about 45, 50 minutes long. You know, doing that at folk festivals, I think it would be a
Absolutely.
perfect folk festival event. And I'm all for it. So let's go.
So you just mentioned that you live in Woodstock. And
Yeah,
one of the things I learned just about a year ago is Woodstock is not where Woodstock took place.
no.
Um, so we went and visited the museum where Woodstock
Right,
actually took place. Um,
right.
but I find it very interesting as somebody says, I'm from Woodstock.
Yeah.
Picture in my head still thinks, oh, that's where it all took place.
And I was too young to go to Woodstock. My parents wouldn't let me go. I was 14. I wanted to go. I really, really wanted.
Well,
No, I was not allowed to go. I guess on some level.
no, I wasn't allowed to go, but my musical brother did go, and I'm not sure my parents even knew he went. So that means he got there and back safely. So
All right,
that is
good.
wonderful. But I want to
Yeah.
thank you for sharing your
Sure.
your passion. Um, I I started listening to some music earlier today, and then I had some internet issues, so I had to stop doing what I was doing. But I'm going to go back and listen to some more. And again, the date at Cafe Lena is
September 22nd.
September
Um,
22nd.
it's a live show. Uh, you know, they're selling tickets for live audience, and but you can also, I think it's only $5. You can tune in to the stream.
Absolutely.
So do it.
Yeah,
And we'll see you on the stream. And you know, you can, if you want to listen to that song White Rose, it's on Spotify. So just plug me in, Michael Veitch. It's Veitch. It's the opposite of what you would think it is. And um, Scottish. My father was born in Scotland. And michaelveitch.com or White Rose, Michael Veitch. It'll pop up. And yeah, and check it out. I think you'll really dig it.
well, I'm going to check it out next. And again, all this will be in the show notes. So if you're listening to this and you forgot something, don't worry. Just read the notes. We'll get you in
Okay.
touch and we'll have the link to Cafe Lena as well. Thank you so
Excellent.
much.
Oh,
Have a
thank
great day.
you.
All
You
right.
too.
Take care
Bye
now.
bye.
Bye bye.
Yeah, bye bye.